I'm Skip Airy, N2EI of Southern New Jersey. If you're interested in radio, AM, FM, shortwave, amateur radio, pirate broadcasting, and more, you won't want to miss the International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Is our show for Sunday, October the 17th of 2021. We thank you for joining us. My name's Sheldon, and Gilles is with me. And we thank you for tuning in. We'd like to hear from you. You can reach us by email with any comments or questions about the program, radioreport@yahoo.com. We are live streaming and archived at ckut.ca. Our Facebook group is International Radio Report. We have a bunch of new members this week. We'd like to welcome David, Stu, Kassem, Jacques, Sil, and Christian joining us. 636 members, so we thank you for stopping by there and clicking the join button. And if you'd like to listen to our show at your leisure, you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/International Radio Report, where we currently have 473 subscribers. You can listen to the latest show and go back and listen to previous editions of the program as well. We have a fairly lengthy story to get to right off the top today, and it is coming from Jean-Frédéric Légaré-Tremblay. He's a fellow and senior advisor, communications and partnerships at the Montreal Centre for International Studies. And this ran in French in La Presse in Montreal, and also in the Globe and Mail, the national newspaper in Canada out of Toronto. And the headline, as press freedom declines worldwide, CBC Radio-Canada should embrace an international broadcasting role. Where's this guy been for a long time? When we did have exactly that.
Yep.
Really interesting story, so we thought we'd share this with you today. So we're going to trade off on this one because it is quite lengthy, but I think it's well worth reading. Canada's role in the world is rather discreet nowadays. This was made clear during the federal election campaign when the candidates' proposals on foreign policy were thoroughly lacking, just like those of culture and communications. Putting these two problems together, we can consider one solution: create a world service at CBC Radio-Canada. This proposal goes beyond growing the ranks of the current cohort of foreign correspondents, whose audience is first and foremost Canadian. Instead, it aims to deploy an extensive network of journalists and broadcasting capability across the world to reach an international audience in a multitude of languages, in the manner of BBC World Service and France 24.
This proposal is important given the global media context over the past decade. Press freedom is declining worldwide, a trend that corresponds with the decline of democracy. From intimidation to banishment, authoritarian governments are increasingly tightening the screws on independent media. There is a second challenge. Many of these governments are making sustained efforts to occupy the information terrain outside their borders with an approach that has scant regard for media independence and conveys a deep skepticism about Western liberal democratic narratives while defending those of their country. And some of them are very successful in doing so. This is the case of the Russian channels RT and Sputnik, whose content does not appear so much to be about enhancing Russia's global reputation as relativizing, even denigrating that of Western countries. Success is palpable. The two channels are the second and third most consulted international public media on the internet, behind the BBC. China, for its part, decided 12 years ago to invest billions of dollars to, in the words of Xi Jinping, tell China's story well to the world in accordance with the Chinese Communist Party line. China Global Television Network broadcasts in 6 languages, and China Radio International in no less than 65 languages. I made mistakes, but my departure wasn't the solution to the CBC's problem with racism. Even Iran has jumped on the bandwagon with a budget of about $1 billion US. The Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting and its branches in 20 countries control 40 TV and radio channels broadcasting in 30 languages. Its objective is to improve Tehran's image, counter Western propaganda against Iran, and cultivate its reputation as an anti-imperialist power.
Among liberal democracies, the United Kingdom has taken note of this new global media situation. In 2016, London made a major reinvestment in the BBC World Service by expanding its staff and launching services in 11 additional languages for a total of 40. As an independent broadcaster, we remain as relevant as ever in the 21st century, when in many places there is not more free expression but less, said the BBC World Services Director, Fran Unsworth. Ottawa also actively supports the cause of media freedom. In 2019, Canada, with the UK, founded the Media Freedom Coalition, a group of countries dedicated to promoting and supporting press freedom, as well as the safety of media professionals. It is also one of 11 founding countries of the Information and Democracy Partnership, which in the same year laid down principles and objectives to promote access to reliable information. Canada could go one step further. CBC, Radio-Canada, has all the assets to play a major international role, heir to a tradition of press freedom that is among the strongest in the world, according to Reporters Without Borders, has high professional and ethical standards, is experienced in international journalism, and is already available in 2 international languages. By doing so, it could offer free and independent information to people who have less and less access to it, while also presenting itself as a legitimate alternative to the propaganda outlets of authoritarian governments.
Canadians would also benefit from such a service, which would inform them better than ever about the world. And in broadcasting Canadian news through a far-reaching network, the same service would better inform foreign audiences about Canada. Radio-Canada International, which has operated since 1945, is already available in 7 languages, but its minuscule team of 9 employees based in Montreal, RCI, produces content that is mostly translated from CBC Radio-Canada's website. This is a far cry from a true international service broadcasting with a host of reporters based in nearly every continent. Among liberal democracies, Canada is one of the stingiest when it comes to investing in its public broadcasters, $33 per capita. The average is $88. This proposal is ambitious, but it's worth an investment. And this just shows that there is more and more need for countries and for broadcasters to actually be international. We are looking constantly at getting correct information about what's happening around the world. I personally am always going to the BBC World Service, which is a known, international news service that you can trust. In Canada, with Radio-Canada International, that had such high marks, everybody was, saying that Radio-Canada International was an amazing service, and it was up there, even with its small budget. It was up there with the big, the BBC and all of those big services. And we need to have that. Radio-Canada International needs to exist and needs to have its own, journalists. It needs to be something, give news around the world. I mean, it is more important than ever that we have something like that.
It's, reading this article, it's such a shame that everything that he is saying in this article is something that we already had.
Yep.
And, these decision makers, whether it was at government level, whether it was in Radio-Canada domestic service that was responsible in the later years for RCI, whether they didn't get it, whether they didn't understand it, whether they didn't think it was necessary, whatever it was, it's basically become irrelevant. It's there, but barely there. It's hard to find. People don't seem to be using it. We've lost a lot of that credibility and respect that we had as an international broadcaster. People are looking at this very large country. People are envious of Canada around the world. They look at us and they say, wow, this is such a great place. Why so many people want to come here? It's the role of Radio Canada International, or at least it was, to be our ambassador to the world, to tell the rest of the world about Canada. The US isn't going to do it. The BBC's not going to do it. We have to talk about ourselves. That's what these other countries that he's quoting, Iran and Russia and China, that's what they're doing. They understand that they're reaching the masses by putting these programs on the radio. We went the exact opposite. We had it and we've lost it. And it's going to be extremely difficult to get it back. I don't know what impact this article will have, but I was really pleased to see it and to see it spelled out like this. And maybe some people will stop and think and say, wow, look what we let slip through our fingers.
I think there's a lot of people that also don't understand exactly, why should we broadcast the Canadian viewpoint and who we are to the world. Why is it positive to do that? And I think a lot of people don't understand that it's not just giving the Canada's viewpoint in world events or even talking about Canadian life. There's something about that also helps in the image and what people around the world think of Canada. If we can actually have a positive voice, an interesting voice out there that people can hear, can read stuff on the internet. I mean, try to find the RCI website today. It's almost impossible. I mean, in any form, be it digital formats, podcast, whatever, even shortwave, it gives an image of Canada for everybody else. And that is only positive because when we go somewhere, if we go to another country, well, with a positive image, we already see that everywhere we go around the world, Canadians are welcome. And that's because we project this image. And the only way to really project it well, some big international service that will broadcast that information.
Yeah, as we've said, we understand this. We understand international broadcasting. We're never quite sure that CBC Domestic or Radio Canada Domestic understood international broadcasting. No. And I don't think they do now because, as the article says, they're taking domestic newscasts and translating them. What do those stories mean to international audiences? Very little, but it's the cheap and dirty way to do it. They're filling a mandate. Well, yeah, the government says we need RCI. Well, look, here we have RCI. But if the content isn't worth anything, why even waste the money? Use the money, put it into a service like we had, and get the word out in multiple languages like these other broadcasters are doing. Is it too late? I don't know. I certainly hope not. But I certainly I don't know Jean-Frédéric Légaré-Tremblay, but I'm a fan of his right now, I'll tell you that, with him putting this article together.
I think what's scary also is to hear all the time about the dollar amount of what it cost. When, I'm sorry, but good news sources, good news services, you can't talk about it in terms of dollars. Right. You have to talk about it in terms of all the information that comes out of it. And yeah, we'll have to spend money to have that going. But it's scary because there's so much talk about how much it costs rather than how much it will bring back in return.
Yeah, it's money well spent. The investment, the return on investment has been proven in the past. Now, it's just not there. So anyways, we thought we'd get that story out to you. And I think it's really important. And I'm glad that somebody is at least, put it down on paper and really respect that article. All right, let's move on to Western Canada. Some interesting things going on with the CRTC. This comes from the Western Standard via Radio World. The CRTC says nein to a German radio station in a remote Alberta town. The CRTC has shot down plans for a German radio station in northern Alberta, claiming it would prevent residents from fully participating in Canadian society, says Blacklock's reporter. I do not understand why they would do this, said Abraham Zacharias of Lacrate, Alberta, who applied for a license on behalf of local townspeople. Residents petitioned for a part-time 50-watt FM license to broadcast local programs in German. There were no exceptions from commercial stations in neighboring towns. I'm very disappointed, he said. A 50-watt approval is usually not difficult, especially as a nonprofit community service. The hamlet of Lacrate, 700 kilometers northeast of Edmonton, is not home to a single francophone, according to census data. Of some 2,000 residents, more than two-thirds, or 64%, identify as German-speaking Mennonites, and more than a tenth of townspeople speak German at work. The local Chamber of Commerce calls the century-old hamlet a unique bilingual community with English and German as the two dominant languages. It's the home to a Mennonite heritage village as well. The CRTC, in its decision, said ethnic radio stations must typically broadcast in multiple languages, though in this case, it would not be practical since Lacrate residents only spoke English and German. The CRTC said, nevertheless, it was concerned German news, talk, and music shows would not help the local community to better participate in Canadian society or bridge the cultural gap with the existing English-speaking community. What do they mean by that, said Zacharias. I get tons of people asking us if this is up and running. We have older residents who don't understand some of the English language that well, and this is for them. We would have music, different talk shows, news, programming for the elderly, children's programming. There would be church programming. Where do we go from here? The CRTC issued its ruling Friday on Multiculturalism Day, the golden jubilee of a 1971 cabinet policy. I do not understand this decision at all.
How does it make that a community would not be participating in anything Canadian just because they'll have a station in a language that they understand best?
We have stations in Montreal here that only broadcast in one language, not even English or French. We have an Arabic speaking station in Montreal. We have a Creole station.
Yep.
How are those different than this station that wants to broadcast to a specific audience that speaks another language? We have multi-ethnic stations. It seems the CRTC doesn't have a problem with that, but they have a problem with someone speaking English and another language. I don't get it.
Yeah, and if you have a small community in a small town or anything, I would like to have a station that speaks to me in the language that I can understand. If I have a hard time with English or French or anything else, I mean, I have a hard time with this one also. I can't understand what they thought of or how they took that subject that, well, it's almost like, well, if we put a German language station there, it's going to be hard for these people to fit in.
I think in BC and in Toronto, there are Hindi language stations.
Yeah.
There are probably some other examples that I'm not thinking of right now across the country, but this one, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, and the fact that they had nobody complain about it. There were no interventions.
No.
It was simply the CRTC who made this decision based on their own findings, it seems.
Yeah, that's
very strange.
So what is happening with our sun? Well, this week was kind of active. Last week I had mentioned a sunspot group 2882, and I said in my report that it was growing and there was possibility of flares. And what did it do? It had an M flare that was actually Earth-directed, and it brought us a geomagnetic storm this week. We had a G2 class storm that happened. So there was some activity, and there was a lot of disturbances on the bands. I was listening when the storm hit, and I can tell you that there was not a lot of signals on shortwave for a couple of hours. And of course, it subsided, and now things are back to normal calmness. There is a possible coronal hole that will be impacting around October 19th. So that solar wind might actually create some more unsettled conditions on the shortwave bands. Solar flux hovering around 80, and we have continued ascension of the solar cycle that is going higher than expected, faster than expected. So apparently we might be heading towards a solar maximum that will be even bigger than what they expected before. And of course, the best way to know if propagation is good or bad is to turn on that radio and listen.
I'm Brian Penny of Brewster, Massachusetts. You're tuned to the International Radio Report. 30 minutes of news about radio on CKUT, 90.3 FM in Montreal.
And talking about propagation, we might want to make sure that propagation isn't too bad for an upcoming event on October 24th. We talked about this a few times in the past when it happens. The SAQ Grimeton UN Day transmission that is coming up. This is via Ralph Bender from Germany. On United Nations Day, Sunday, October 24th, 2021, the unique and historical Alexanderson alternator in Grimeton, Sweden, with the call sign SAQ, is scheduled to send out a message to the whole world on 17.2 kilohertz CW. So 17.2 kilohertz, that's very low in frequency. The program and transmission schedule is set for 13:30 UTC. Information about World Heritage Grimeton for visitors at the Visitor Center, and at 14 UTC, transmitter hall visit for visitors. And then there's the transmission and YouTube live stream. 14:25 UTC, the live stream will begin. 14:30 UTC, startup and tuning of the Alexanderson alternator SAQ. And at 15 hours UTC, transmission of a message from SAQ. The YouTube live stream, we'll post the link for that, is going to be at 15:20 UTC, live music concert from the transmitter hall, and there's more details on the website. We are proud to announce that this year's message has been composed by the Swedish human rights lawyer and sustainability expert, Mr. Parul Sharma. Test transmissions that they are planning to carry are some test transmission on October 22nd, approximately between 11 UTC and 14 UTC. SAQ will be on the air shorter periods of time during this interval, when we will be carrying out some tests and measurements. And of course, comments are welcome to info@alexander.n.se. So this is, of course, something that is unique, very low frequency, so you need a radio receiver that goes way down to 17 kilohertz, 17.2 kilohertz exactly. Lots of people have been hearing this around the world, so, maybe it's something to try for, even if you are not sure that you are capable of receiving this signal. Just try it, and of course you can maybe try it on some online receivers somewhere. And that YouTube live is going to be fun also to watch.
Yep, this is they've done many of these in the past, and it's always quite an interesting activity and special event for radio DXers around the world. So if you're in a nice quiet location, that's going to be key. And we'll put up all this information so you can be in the right place at the right time to see if you can hear the transmissions.
Yep.
Guess what? There's another international radio report.
Really?
It's not just us. Via Mike Terry in the UK and Glenn Hauser's World of Radio, we've been told that the latest edition of Hans Knott's International Radio Report is now available. What is it? They call it a kaleidoscope of offshore radio. It's basically a newsletter blog type format produced by Hans Knott. in the Netherlands. Includes a wide variety of news, information, and feature articles predominantly on the European pirate radio scene. Some of the content is written in Dutch, also many articles, though, in English. Don't tell the CRTC about that. They might not like that. It is available online simply at Hansnot, that's HANSKNOT.com. I had come across this a long time ago, and I'd kind of forgot about it. And then when Glenn and Mike put this together as a tip, I went and took a look at it again, and it's lengthy.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of really interesting stuff on it about the European pirate radio scene. A lot of feature articles. A lot of work goes into it. So do check it out. I'm not sure how often it comes out, but this is the latest edition. So hansnot.com for his International Radio Report. Of course, not to be confused with our International Radio Report.
Yep, definitely a great place to visit. I've looked through it. When you sent me the link, I started looking at it, and a very, very interesting place, website for a lot of information. And lots of stuff in English, actually. So
really good pictures, too, included.
Yep.
Some of the pirates, broadcasters, some of their facilities, some of the onboard ship stations, and a lot of historical information, too. So I think you'll enjoy it.
We have a little bit of news coming out of ICOM, a well-known company for radios and transceivers. Amateur radio operators know ICOM. There's a lot of these radios out there. They have a portable wideband receiver that is the ICOM ICR30. We've got news that it probably will be discontinued soon. The ICOM Europe and Asia website already says that it's discontinued. So only the North America ICOM website still doesn't say it. But that probably means that the days are counted. If you are into looking to buy one of those, I think you got to hurry because there might not be any more available soon. The ICOM ICR30 is a wideband receiver, goes from about, I think, way down to 100 kilohertz up to 3 gigahertz, has different digital modes that it can decode, like D-Star is one of the ICOM modes that you can listen for amateur radio, D-Star communications. It has an all mode on all frequencies, or pretty much, and it's a nice little package. Unfortunately, if you live in a big city, it might overload. I just got to tell you. But the days are counted, and there's no replacement. There doesn't seem to be any other model that will replace the ICOM ICR30.
Now, on your official SWL channel, YouTube channel, you have quite a few videos about the R30.
Yeah.
So people might like to check those out as well. So we'll put up a link, and you can check it out. Maybe you already have one, and you can hold on to it. And I think location of using this radio, as you said, is
very
vital.
important. Yep. Yeah. And maybe if you're looking for accessories also, like replacement batteries and all of that, maybe it's time to look for that also, because if the radio disappears, accessories are also going to be hard to find. So we are out of time.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. We had quite a bit of interesting stuff here today. We'll put links up on our Facebook page to these stories. We'd love to hear your comments as well, particularly that story about what we would like to see, a rebirth of Radio Canada International. Your comments would be appreciated. Any questions you have, radioreport@yahoo.com is our email address, and our Facebook group, International Radio Report. And to listen to the show again on YouTube, International Radio Report is the channel. So check all of that out. We'll talk to you again next Sunday. We had no ham contests for this next coming weekend, so that's if you thought we missed them. No, we didn't. There's nothing lined up for next weekend, so we'll see what's up next time round. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you again next Sunday on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.